Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to True Talk Tuesday, the weekly series in which we talk about pretty much everything truthfully. And tonight we have a special guest, our very own Sarah Stiegler. Like, we love her. We have her on here a lot. Y'all know her. We are going to talk about the new housing law that just came into play in July. So before we go any further, let's introduce Sarah. Get her added to the stage there. My button didn't want to work. Hey, Sarah, how are you?
Hey, y'all, I'm Sarah. I'm your local loan officer. If you didn't know, now you do. I'm doing good. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. We talked about this probably about a week ago. We talked about doing the live and talking about the housing bill. So for those of you that do not know, and I'm going to pull up my notes so that way I don't misquote anything. All right. It was July 11th that this particular law became law. It is called the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. All right. It has a lot of things in it, and we're going to talk about these things, and we're going to talk about how this is going to affect your home buying and how it might not affect your home buying. There's some things in here that are kind of interesting. So real quick, just so you have a highlight of what they are, there are 12 titles. So think of titles as like chapters, right? So there are 12 chapters in this housing bill with 59 different sections. So it's a lot. I did read through it. I tried to make sure I understood it. If you want to read it for yourself, it's on congress.gov. You can look it up. So what it's concerning is state and local zoning practices, housing supply, affordable housing development, streamlining certain development and environmental reviews, accessory dwelling units, manufactured modular housing, development near public transportation, parking requirements, minimum lot sizes, building heights, density, local development review processes, and housing production in economically distressed areas. The other big thing that this does is that it actually is designed it's supposed to stop big corporate investors from buying up a bunch of single family homes. And that's what we're going to first talk about, Sarah and I. The law states that a corporation can only buy 350. Correct?
They can only own 350. So if they, let's say they only own 300, they can buy 50 more. And that's about it.
Now, they're ones that have already have more than 350. They are grandfathered in. They do not have to give up property or anything like that. Now, here's my worry, and I'm just going to say it out loud, okay? My worry. We talked about this before this.
Yeah.
You get a different LLC, and now you can buy 350 more. I didn't see anything that said they couldn't do that.
No, it didn't say. It's just one corporate. And I get the idea of it that yes, your average Joe doesn't compete with big corporate, big investors for the single family home.
Correct.
And that's very much pertaining single family homes. Like if you look at it, it's not mobile home parks or whatever. But let's be honest, your big investors or your investors, they're really not going to pay that much for your home,
right?
Like the average Joe does. So you already, if you're working with a realtor or your listing agent, they can say, hey, this is an investor. They are going to offer you only X amount. They're not going to offer you full list price.
Right. Well, I get what they're trying to do with this. I really do, because we do have a lot of corporations that have gone and bought up single family homes, which has driven up, rental prices. And then the rental prices have driven up the actual market price of a home. Right. So I get trying to curb that and trying to make that stop. So that way we don't have a continuous increase in these rental prices. Right.
Yes.
But we know that there's always loopholes, and unless this has been really shored up, that we are going to have a loophole, right?
Oh,
And so I think we do. I think we have a huge loophole in this law right now,
yeah.
and it's not going to do what was intended. The theory is not, the theory on paper is great, but the practice of it, I don't think is going to work.
No, I don't think so either, unfortunately. Unfortunately.
So I don't think it's going to do anything. So if you guys are, the whole point of this, by the way, is we're going through this not only to educate you on what this housing law, this new housing law has in it, but we're also trying to show you what it could possibly, how it affects you, right?
Yeah.
So this one right here, I do not see, and Sarah, you can let me know if you agree, but I don't see this actually having any effect. That particular line item is going to have any effect in what is going on with our housing market. What do you think?
No, especially here in our little Polk County area.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Now, this is not part of the housing bill. I will say this is for, what is going on with Florida and property taxes. I can see that having an impact, right? But not an immediate impact. But I can see it definitely having an impact,
Yeah.
Because if we lower property taxes, then people will have the ability to buy houses that might have been out of their league before, because we know that their taxes are getting rolled into their payments. So if there's lower taxes, then they have a lower payment, and now they can afford a bigger house. So I think that one's going to do well in the long term. I think we still got a bunch of things to iron out about that, but I think
that would be a fun one.
So I'm looking at my notes.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the large institution. All right. The enacted legislation includes provisions intended to strengthen the role of community banks in holding finance. Okay. One provision concerns how certain custodial deposits are treated for purposes of federal banking rules for qualifying well-capitalized insured depository institutions. So, Sarah, please explain that in regular words, because I was like, I don't know what that meant. All right, I'm gonna have to ask Sarah.
That's a good one. So for the community bank, it all also speaks to making, the smaller mortgages work. And
right. That was a big one for this community bank.
I think, yes, that's the bigger one. So to somewhat put that in plain English, because of the depositories and the whole 9 yards, it's a whole thing of the secondary market. Okay. But yes, so for the small dollar mortgages, which I think it's great, but because small dollar mortgages, so the effort for a mortgage for $100,000, $50,000, or whatever is the same effort we as loan officers and the bank puts in as for $300 so it doesn't make any difference how big the loan is in the end. Right. The works always is going to be the same. And I personally know this because I do run into issues where the loan limit usually is $125,000.
Right.
Some go on to 115, or I have a few banks that will do the $65,000, $50,000 condos or whatnot. Mm-hmm. Land is a whole nother beast. They want it to be the loan amount, a minimum of 100,000, not the purchase price, your loan amount. So that's what we're talking about. Because yes, you have to calculate the compensation in for the loan officer, then how much money you actually make off of it on the secondary market. That is actually where we as bankers, brokers, the mortgages, where the money is made. That is where the money is made.
Here's my question about all of that. Is I know as on real estate side, right?
Yeah.
FHA loans, even conventional loans have their standards, right? You have to have, as far as the building itself, you have to have certain things not pass inspection. I hate pass fail. I hate that word, pass fail, for an inspection, but that's what it feels like, right? It feels like it's passing or failing. So, there's certain things that have to be done in order for you to have insurance. And insurance then dictates the loan, right? Then you can get the loan as long as you've got homeowners insurance. On houses that are $100,000, you can get that loan, but you're not going to get homeowners insurance, because right now I'm seeing houses that are $100,000 that they're not going to pass those inspections. You've got a rough roof, or you've got flooring issues, or there's different types of like leaks and things of that nature.
Square footage. So, and all of that also goes in with the changes to financing guidelines. There are some square footage financing guidelines that are going to be changing that I saw, but I was like, that's great that, the small dollar mortgages, but
you still won't be able to get, able to buy the loan because
the house,
you don't have insurance.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, this is great. This is cool. This is awesome for vacant land. This is great for vacant land. Go ahead.
I'll say something, and I know people like, this is going to sound rough, and I'm not trying to make it sound rough, and I'm not trying to like
go ahead, say
super critical, but a lot of what this reads like to me, this seems like a lot of lip service. Like we put some stuff in here so that way it feels like there's the perception of that we are doing things, but I don't know how much we're actually doing, because we haven't really addressed what I think is the issue. And you and I have talked about what we think is the issue, and it's not housing inventory, because all of this is also meant to kind of like make more inventory, right? There's relaxations on environmental reviews, right? Which my green team kids from high school, they know how I feel about that. But there's things that are there to bring more inventory, right? New builds and things of that nature. But that doesn't really address what I think the problem is and what you think the problem is. By the way, we both think that the problem is affordability.
It absolutely is. It's affordability, because again, I can write loans for 100 or less. You can get a nice condo for it, but again, you know this. There's no single family homes that will pass that are insurable or livable for $100,000 in the area. I mean, there are very, 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 very few in between, but again, that is like a very lucky find right now in today's market. That's my personal opinion. I'm not a realtor, but I just don't see it anymore. And but there is one thing I do like.
Okay. What is
that? There's one thing I do like. So hold on, let me scroll through my little.
We both took notes. We were both like, okay, make sure we know what we're talking about over here, right?
Yes.
Trying to make sure we give you facts and not opinions, right? Yeah, we do give you a side of opinion. I will say that there is a side of opinion when we say, hey, this is how it affects you. That's an opinion that we have. We don't have crystal balls, so we don't know that that's going to be a truth. But this is from what we know in our experience. This is how we think it's going to go down.
Yes. So, and that falls in with the in the little category of, the cutting the red tape, the streamlining environment process, which we are not so happy about. But the incentivizing growth, they're working on offering more grants to cities, local government, to demonstrate they're actively increasing the housing supply.
Right.
AKA more grants for, redoing our CRA area with new builds, but it also helps buyers get into a home. I like that. But what I do like, I'm sure you read it, is the repurposing program in there, repurposing of old unused residential buildings, vacant or underused commercial buildings, such as old warehouses, hotels, malls, or whatnot, that can be converted into residential housing.
I like that.
I do like that.
That was a good
like
part.
that.
I can see, but again, we come back to that. Okay, did we also take care of the insurance side of this? Because how are we going to get insurance on those places?
Yes. Which so
we can get the loan.
So there's some in there where and it's with the Reside Act that they provide funding for covering for funding to convert those into livable residential homes. So there are going to be grants under that Reside Act that help or fund per se a renovation of those homes. How that is going to look like, I don't know yet, but I do like that.
I've always wanted to like buy either an old motel or even an old mall. I would love to buy. Here's something. I want to buy an old mall and I want to convert it into like a bunch of little apartments, right?
That'd be so fun, yes.
That's what I want. And then I want to invite vendors on the inside, like little stands to provide the, eggs and bread and like all that stuff to the indoor people, right? Like
That'd be fun. Or I do actually see it out here on 6th. You see a bunch of where people bought up actually those motels where you have little individual, little tiny houses, and they were actually converted into more affordable rentals, which is nice. They can be also converted into affordable, smaller homes.
Yes.
Perfect for just somebody buying their first little thing. So I do like that. I also like that they are thinking about, having an ADU.
Yes.
Making that a little bit more flexible with the lot sizes. I do like that because that does help you to afford your mortgage, to offset your bills, to have a renter, or also just to have family living with you. Because what if your mom and dad can't live on their own anymore? Have you seen how expensive assisted living facilities are?
Right.
You can build multiple of those tiny homes in your backyard for 1 year, paying for your poor parents to live in one room. So I do like that.
I like the ADUs, by the way, because it allows people to I think one of the things that we miss in our society today is that multifamily kind of living, to be able to help each other. So I like the fact that ADUs are now becoming, by the way, ADUs, if you guys are like, what are they talking about ADUs?
What's in their water?
Yeah, an additional dwelling unit. And you would know it as a mother-in-law suite.
Yeah, mother-in-law suite.
Yeah, it's a mother-in-law suite. And so we are seeing people wanting to build those more and more because of I think we are starting to shift as a society to a more multi-generational, like we went away from it and I think we're coming back to it again. So I've seen a lot more people ask for that. There is the benefit of having an older generation help take care of the children while, the parents might be going to work. So I like the fact that we are easing up the ADU stuff. We talked about the removal of a chassis on a manufactured home.
Yes. I don't know how I feel about that, but I actually want to talk. I think I want to talk to somebody that specializes, that builds them, because they're going to do some expanded options for manufacturers on modular homes. Modular homes are different than manufactured homes. So they are going to, they're calling it modernizing the build for them. Where did it go? I'm like scrolling. Here we go.
I know. So, we're both like, we've got notes. So we're both kind of referring to our notes.
Modernizing manufactured housing. Okay, so it makes it easier to finance factory built modular manufactured homes.
Yeah.
By removing the outdated requirements like a permanent chassis rule. If you wonder what that is that big old metal thing that your mobile home sits on and gets hauled in, and it has little wheels and a tongue on it, and the tongue usually, the little triangle in the front, usually gets cut off.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's the chassis. So, and they're also updating the loan limits, which can help lower the cost of phone ownership, which we shall see how that gets updated, because your loan limits are usually your FHA loan limits. FHA has a loan limit, USDA has a loan limit, and they're actually quite up there. So I'm looking at that a little bit. What are you? Yeah, a little bit. What are you talking about? Because our rates are pretty much the same as a single family home. I mean, there's some upfront costs, which I don't see that they are gonna go away with your inspections. So I'm gonna keep an eye on that.
You know, I'm gonna circle back to removing of the chassis, right?
Sorry, yes.
This is what I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, and you guys might not know this, if you buy a manufactured home, if you do not have the title retired,
Mm-hmm.
you basically own a vehicle and piece of property at the same time. So you're gonna pay taxes on registration and title each year, and there's literally a sticker that goes into your window, like you would have on your tag, right? And then you're also going to pay property taxes on the land in which that house sits, right? So you have those two things. If they remove the chassis, now I know you've worked with title stuff too, Sarah. If they remove that chassis, that makes it permanent. That removes the whole vehicle thing. That makes it permanent property at that point. So you wouldn't have to go through the retirement of that title or anything at that point.
Exactly, which is like, yeah.
So
I'm just like, okay, how is this going to work?
I mean, would it save money, and what kind of headache do you anticipate that causing for title?
Technically, it would take it out of being ever mobile. So that's why it does say modular or manufactured. It does not call it, but technically all mobile homes are manufactured homes. So I would like to pick somebody's brain that builds them.
Yeah.
Because
I think we're gonna have to do a second session on this one, and
100%.
just start inviting other people in.
Yes, I'm thinking more of the integrity. What does it do with the structural integrity? Because it does sit on that. They sit on those chassis.
They sit on the chassis. Like by the way, I have lived in a manufactured home all my life. I cannot tell you. I think I lived in an apartment for a little bit, but that's the only solid floor I've ever lived on.
Yes, I mean, you have your pillars, you have your hurricane straps or whatnot, but you still have that underneath there. So maybe I might be ignorant on that side, so I can do the loans. I just don't. I don't build mobile homes, but I lived in them.
Take a mobile home builder's brain and find out, and I'll just find out how they go and anchor this all in. I know that for my particular house, in the house that just got done next door to us, it was an empty lot for a very long time. Now it's not. But they bring in a bed of sand and they tamp it down.
Yep.
And then they bring in the trailer or the manufactured home. They bring it in on wheels and, get it into place and do what they need to do with it. If it is a double wide or a triple wide, it's
a whole other thing. Yes.
Mine's a single wide, so I know mine was, just brought in one piece. But they also jack it up. I remember seeing my house jacked up and then putting the pillars down and then lowering the chassis
onto those pillars.
So I would like to know, is there anything other than the chassis that is strong enough to hold those pillars without the pillars eventually going through the floor.
Pushing,
Like what are they gonna
pushing
do?
through, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that would
I'm not
be very interesting because that is kind of what they're saying, like, to make it more affordable for the
right.
manufacturers to not have to use that so much.
They would then be able to reuse their chassis. It would lower the overhead of the builder, I
Yeah.
would think. Look, I'm talking out the side of my face right now because I know nothing about
Yeah,
it.
so I'm just like, okay, I'll be interested how that works. So if any mobile home builders, manufactured home builders, anyone that knows how this works, hit us up because
Please.
I can do the financing on it all day long, but that's where it ends. But yeah, so I was worried, like, what are we going to do differently then for the interactive lift structure? Because that does also affect some of the, insurance, our inspections, because we do have the inspector go make sure the hurricane straps are good, make sure that everything underneath is good, the vapor barrier is there in the whole 9 years. So I wonder what else has to be done there.
By the way, if you're watching outside of the state of Florida and you hear us say hurricane straps when we're talking about manufactured homes, I don't know if that's a thing in other states because, maybe Louisiana and like Texas and stuff like that, the Gulf states. But if you are in the middle of America and you own a manufactured home, you're like, what are they talking about, hurricane straps? So here in Florida, after Andrew, I think it was after Andrew, we have to have what's called hurricane straps attached to a manufactured home. And so they're like these metal strips that they're about like this thick, and wide, and they go up and over and under, and they actually get like tied down and strapped down to these pillars, right? So that way your house doesn't move in the wind. And you've got to have so many, and they have to be a certain width, and they have to be touching certain things. And so when you have a manufactured home, and Sarah and I just did a video on this, when you have a manufactured home, one of the things is that you have to have an engineer come out and go, those are good. If you've got anything that has been built onto that house, that needs to stand by itself. I know I'm going through a nightmare right now. All right. It has to stand on its own, right? So manufactured homes have these hidden costs that most buyers don't realize. And that engineer report is one of those hidden costs. Like it's upwards of $750 to $850 to have an engineer come out and inspect the home. And then if for whatever reason the home doesn't pass inspection, now the sellers are going to have to, remediate. And so there's things, and this is what Sarah and I are talking about as far as, does this chassis removal now affect the hurricane ties? Does this affect
how I'm thinking?
This, like
we want to know. We want to know.
Right. Just being curious minds want to know. And now I just did myself really bad right then. Inquiring minds want to know. All right. It is 30, so we're going to stop for tonight. We're doing this again. We're
doing this again because there's a USDA thing on there, because you remember I have a gripe about USDA.
Yes.
They're making some changes.
I think we might have to do this next Tuesday. I got to check. I don't think I have a guest next Tuesday, but
we're going to do a deep dive. If we are suited up, we're going underneath the mobile home. That's what y'all know. You will know.
Look, I've already done my duty underneath the mobile home. All right. I don't want to do it again. Don't make me, Sarah.
But yes, we have to do a deep dive. And again, this is not an overnight change. This is going to take a long time.
Right. You're not seeing anything immediately. Not with lending, not with housing prices. That's not going to be an immediate thing.
This is like 2 to 3 years.
Yes.
To even work it out. This is just an idea, people. And now it needs to be implemented, tested, and adjusted.
And everybody's now scrambling to figure out how to put these changes into what they already do. So there's going to be time for all that, like you said,
Yeah.
implement,
Yeah.
test it, and adjust it. It's with anything. So absolutely. You and I are going to talk about this again next week, I think. And we're going to go through the USDA stuff because I'm interested in your opinion on that. We're going to leave it at that as a cliffhanger, and you guys are going to have to tune in next week.
See y'all next week. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for being on. And as always, my lovelies, be happy, be safe, and know that I love you, because if people can hate for no reason, I can love you for no reason. All right. Bye.